Now, the Diddy trial has officially come to an end and the verdict is in. As most of you probably know, P. Diddy has been on trial since early May for a set of very serious charges, including SEX trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transporting individuals across state lines for illegal purposes. This has easily been one of the most covered stories in hip-hop, right next to the Kendrick and Drake beef. The coverage started before the trial even kicked off, back when Diddy's whole world blew up after his ex-girlfriend Cassie filed that explosive lawsuit that made national headlines. And then came the arrest in September 2024, which only confirmed that this wasn't just a rumor, this was real. The feds were, at this point, definitely coming for Diddy. On July 2nd, 2025, just a day or two ago, Judge Arun Subramanian delivered the verdict in Diddy's high-profile 7-week trial. After an intense courtroom battle and over 30 witnesses taking a stand, Diddy managed to escape the most serious charges, including racketeering conspiracy and SEX trafficking. So let's break down this entire verdict together because there's a lot of misinformation going around about what this verdict actually means. Drop a like if you made it this far. For anyone who's been following the trial, you probably already know the basics. Diddy has been under massive pressure as his legal team has been fighting these allegations head-on since May. It all started back in September 2024, when Diddy was first hit with 3 serious criminal charges. At that point, the heat was already on him, but things got even more serious just months later. In April 2025, just a few weeks before the trial began, prosecutors came forward with 2 more charges, bringing the total to 5 different charges. That move said one thing loud and clear: the government was going all in on trying to bring Diddy down. Then came the trial, a high-stakes 7-week courtroom showdown that had the entire world watching. This wasn't just about gossip or rumors anymore. This was about evidence, witnesses, and whether or not one of the most powerful men in music would go down. The prosecution made it clear what kind of story that they were trying to tell. Among some of the first witnesses was none other than Cassie, the woman who lit the match that started this fire. She testified for 4 days straight while over 8 months pregnant. She talked about how Diddy abused her, manipulated her, and controlled every part of her life during their on and off relationship from 2007 to 2018. She painted a picture of a man who ran her life, telling the jury about the so-called freak-offs she said he orchestrated, watched, filmed, and sometimes even forced her to participate in. She claimed he threatened her career, blackmailed her with explicit footage, and even did things to her after their breakup in 2018. Cross-examination was intense. Diddy's legal team tried to paint her as a willing participant, pulling up explicit texts, old messages, and moments where she appeared to speak positively about the encounters. But that didn't change the tone Cassie had already set. After Cassie's testimony, the floodgates opened up. A second woman, testifying under the name Jane, took the stand in week 4 and 5. She had dated Diddy from 2021 until his arrest in 2024. Jane's story echoed Cassie's. She described frequent freak-offs and said she only kept participating because she felt she had to, especially once Diddy started paying her rent. She told the court that he used those payments as leverage and even described a violent altercation in 2024 that left her with a black eye. And at this point, Diddy's lawyers tried to discredit Jane's testimony by saying that she was a willing participant that actually arranged these freak-offs with Diddy by herself, right? Jane responded by saying she only did that to keep some control over what was happening. Then came Mia, a former personal assistant of Diddy's. She testified that Diddy actually physically assaulted her multiple times during her time working for him. The assaults, she said, were random and spaced out, but enough to make her feel trapped, scared to say anything or fight back. Under cross-examination, the defense pointed to old social media posts where Mia praised Diddy, claiming she made the whole thing up. Aside from Mia, we also had Kid Cudi, who actually ended up taking the stand. He told the court that after Diddy found out that he had briefly dated Cassie back in 2011, Diddy broke into his home. Weeks later, Cudi's car ended up, poof, blowing up. And while Diddy has denied having anything to do with that, Cudi made it clear who he believed was responsible. Another witness, Capricorn Clark, a former employee, told her that Diddy kidnapped her at gunpoint, forced her into her car, and said he was going to take Kid Cudi's life. She also said that Diddy once pushed her, subjected her to lie detector tests, and regularly threatened her during her time working for him. Then came Eddie Garcia, a former security guard at Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. He testified that Diddy paid him $100,000 to help cover up surveillance footage from 2016, footage that showed Diddy doing things to Cassie in a hotel hallway. The footage was eventually leaked by CNN, and Diddy apologized publicly when it came out. But in court, the prosecution used it. The jury watched the video over and over and over again. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. The jury was also shown clips of the freak-offs, which was these, SEX marathons that Diddy, was hosting and kind of arranged and put together with other male escorts. The clips were graphic, so graphic that only the jury, the judge, Diddy, and both legal teams were allowed to watch them with headphones. The public wasn't allowed to see or hear anything, but in that courtroom, the jury saw it all. By this point, over 30 witnesses had been called to the stand. The prosecution had built a massive wall of testimonies, videos, receipts, and timelines. Their goal was clear: bring in as many insiders as possible and expose the real Diddy. Not the mogul, not the rapper, but the man that they said had been hiding in plain sight. And after all that, after 7 weeks of disturbing testimony, uncomfortable evidence, and emotional breakdowns during the trial, they eventually came to a decision just yesterday at the time me recording this video. Out of the 5 charges Diddy was facing, he was found guilty on 2, but acquitted of the most serious one, racketeering conspiracy. In other words, the courts decided he wasn't guilty of running a coordinated criminal enterprise, and that one decision is what ultimately saved him from a potential life sentence. To break it down more thoroughly, count number 1 was racketeering conspiracy, which was up to life in prison. Diddy was found not guilty on that charge. Count number 2 was accidental trafficking of Cassie Ventura, which would have been 15 years to life, and he was found not guilty on that. However, count 3 was transporting individuals, including Cassie Ventura, for constitution. Just change the, K with a P, right? And that would have been up to 10 years in prison, which Diddy was actually guilty for. And then we have count number 4, which was sex trafficking of the woman Jane, which was 15 years to life, and he was found not guilty on that. And the last but not least one was transporting individuals, including Jane, for, again, constitution. And that would have been up to 10 years in prison, which Diddy was found guilty for. So what does this actually mean? Does it mean that Diddy is like a free man? Because that's kind of what they're saying on social media and on Twitter. I'm sure you might have seen some of the memes and some of the, tweets going up, right? Now, Diddy is not a free man, okay? In fact, his legal team immediately filed a request for release, but the judge denied bail, pointing to the fact that Diddy was still convicted on 2 federal charges, and with each one of those counts carrying up to 10 years behind bars, his future is still very much on the line. Now, each one of those counts carry 10 years each, so 10 plus 10 equals 20, okay? 10 plus 10, 20. Which means Diddy is actually still facing 20 years, up to 20 years in prison. So no, P. Diddy is not a free man at all, but considering everything that came out during this trial, he's also very lucky. I mean, he managed to dodge the most severe charges, and that alone could have changed the course of his entire life. I mean, Diddy had the possibility of actually spending life in prison. Now, the prosecution is pushing for the maximum sentence, and honestly, that makes a lot of sense. They may have lost a bigger battle, but this fight isn't over yet. As of now, the judge has proposed a sentencing date of October 3rd, and that's when we'll really find out how much time Diddy will spend behind bars. Now, let's be real, this was a massive win for Diddy, because like we stated, he was literally facing life in prison before this verdict came. Now, the big question a lot of people have is, how did Diddy even get away with almost everything? Was it his status? Was it some kind of conspiracy, or just a good legal team? Because obviously he got money, money on. The simple answer to this question is this. Even with all the disturbing details that we've heard, the graphic testimonies, the witness list, and the hotel surveillance footage, the jury just didn't buy the government's core argument that Diddy was the ruthless ringleader of a coordinated criminal conspiracy. The prosecution tried to paint this as a sprawling operation, one that involved sex trafficking, racketeering, bribery, kidnapping, and more. But in the end, they just couldn't really connect the dots well enough, right? And the jury already likely had doubts about how organized this alleged criminal enterprise really was. There was no clear blueprint, no outline of who did what, how it all worked, or who reported to who. And more importantly, there was no insider witness tying all of it together from the inside. And here's the crazy part, Diddy's legal team didn't actually call a single witness because they didn't have to. Their strategy was simple: own the bad and poke holes in the story. So essentially, they didn't shy away from all the negative things that were being told by Diddy, like all these stories, the testimonies, and everything. They didn't shy away from any of that. They didn't deny that Diddy had a violent past. They didn't run from the 2016 assault on Cassie. They even admitted that the infamous freak-offs happened. But they argued that those were toxic, messy relationships, not criminal ones. They showed text messages, explicit photos, and private conversations where women like Cassie and Jane appeared to speak positively about their experiences with Diddy, and they reframed them not as a predator, but as a man living out a controversial lifestyle. Essentially, they kind of turned it into, Diddy's not a trafficker, he is a swinger, okay? And for anyone who doesn't know what a swinger is, person who engages in group, or they just kind of like change partners, like they just swap partners with each other. So they were saying that this is what Diddy was into, and he's not a criminal for this, right? He just lived this crazy lifestyle. One legal expert said it the best: the prosecution lost credibility by overcharging. When jurors think the case is exaggerated, it usually doesn't end well. Another expert pointed out that the prosecution never clearly explained what the so-called criminal enterprise actually was, how it operated, who was involved, or what his purpose even was. And that tiny bit of uncertainty, that's what opened the door for Diddy to walk free. So Diddy literally managed to avoid the most serious charges, right? And although he's still not in the clear yet, I mean, honestly, we can say that Diddy done made it out the worst part, right? And honestly, this was not the kind of outcome that I was personally expecting. I'll just be honest with you guys. But then again, when you kind of start to take everything into account, I guess it makes sense, right? Personally, I predict that Diddy's probably going to spend, 3 years behind bars tops, and then he's probably going to be out in the free world. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about this topic though. How Diddy almost got away with everything. Almost, okay? Like I said, he made it out the worst part. And out of the 5 counts that he was facing, he was only found guilty of 2 of them. So 20 years in prison, that's what he's facing up to. So he could literally get 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? I guess we're gonna have to see. What do you guys think about this topic though? I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say, and I'll catch you guys in the comment section below. Most importantly of all, catch you guys in the next video, man. I'm out. Peace.